so my name is Harry. I am a machine learning researcher, so I have a background in computer engineering and computer science. So what I have done recently is myself and a couple of colleagues, we've written a paper on the impact of this technology on artists. So we talk about economic impacts, social impacts, and legal impacts. So I'll be moderating this panel, and yeah.
Thank you, Harry. That's me up there. Hi, I'm Steven Zapata. I've been a commercial designer and illustrator for over a decade now. I've worked on stuff like, what does that say up there? Elder Scrolls Online, Disney's Do Well. I've done a lot of theme park stuff, things like that. I've been teaching for several years now at Art Center College of Design, and I have there you go, Art Center Power and Rep. And I also have a YouTube channel where I love to draw and meet students from all over the world. And on YouTube, I was famously mad at AI last year on a video that I made called The End of Art, an Argument Against Image AIs. And I guess that's why I'm here, because I'm not a lawyer or anything. All right, that's me.
What up, what up? My name's Carla Ortiz. I'm a concept artist, fine artist, illustrator. I've worked in all sorts of stuff. Particularly worked on a lot of Marvel projects. Loki 1, Loki 2, that's now out. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Black Panther, but most notably known for my design on Doctor Strange, specifically in the first movie, where I got to famously paint Benedict Cumberbatch every day for almost a whole year. And I saw his face in real life at the premiere, and I felt like a massive creeper. Like, because I'm like, I've been staring at your face for a whole year. It's his fault. Yeah. Thank you. I like the support in the first row. I am also one of the plaintiffs of our class action lawsuit case against Stability AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt. And it's been a dang wild ride.
And I'm Travis Manfredi. I'm a class action attorney and IP attorney at the Joseph Saveri law firm, but everything I say is my own opinion, not the firm's opinion. I've done a lot of class action work, mostly antitrust, and then a lot of IP work. So I've been working with Carla since last year on this case. My firm also brought a case on the Copilot product that GitHub and OpenAI put out, and one about Meta's Llama and ChatGPT, another OpenAI product. And so that's basically all I do now is work on AI cases.
Okay, sweet. So let me start with Steven. So, given the current threat of AI products, in what way does the legal system help artists?
So the main thing that we have legally right now is copyright. I mean, that's nothing new. It's sort of an interesting thing to look at now because, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of artists these days, we are not in the tendency to actually copyright our work after we make it. I think that's probably going to become more important for all of us moving forward, and I think that all of us would probably do well to familiarize ourselves more with the way copyright works in this country and how to register your copyrights. I actually just registered my first copyright for something that I made. Yeah, I did it. It was very exciting. And the system works. You follow the steps. It wasn't difficult for me. It really does work. I think that everybody should take that seriously. But in a real sense, and what we're all here in this room trying to do is learn not really so much about the current regime, because our laws, the way that we think about copyright, IP, everything was written and decided in times where there was no machine learning, there was no AI. And if you were to float that, the stuff that we're dealing with now, things like stable diffusion were a possibility, a lot of people would have thought you were crazy, right? So we're really trying to figure out what's the future regime going to look like, I think, and what legal protections are we going to be able to find. So yeah, short answer, I think I'm looking forward to learn, like a lot of people in this room.
Yeah. So, Carla, you're a representative plaintiff in a major class action lawsuit. Can we talk a bit about your case and how you went about thinking about starting a suit and kind of the process to get it started?
How about I answer how I contacted, why I'm a part of a class action suit, and then I'll let Travis speak a little bit more about the details of the case, because I'm always like, I don't want to mess it up, Travis. So last year I became aware of generative AI somewhere around April 2022. We were just browsing online, and I found this thing called Weird Wonderful AI. And in there, I saw a section called Artist Studies. And in those artist studies, I saw a bunch of images that looked like a bunch of friends of mine. I had illustrators there that I knew personally. And my first instinct was like, oh my goodness, like this is interesting. This could be a, new, some sort of study or some sort of like scientific thing. What's going on? So I reached out to the artist whose name I saw, and they had no idea what I was talking about. We reached out to the people who were running this, whole thing, and they were suspiciously selling merchandise and NFTs that looked like those artist studies. And we said, hey, listen, here's a bunch of artists that don't want to be a part of this. And by the way, this is one of the earlier versions, or an earlier model. I think this was called Disco Diffusion at the time. This was before, Stable Diffusion and so on. And when we reached out to these people, they just ghosted us straight up. And to this day, it's still up. And I thought, this is really niche, whatever, moving on. But come in April and September, it really starts exploding. And I do research. And I reach out to the Concept Art Association. We decide to do a town hall about it. And reaching to actual machine learning experts, in that time, it was Abhishek Gupta from Montreal AI Ethics Institute, where we had a conversation. I'm just like, this is what I'm finding out. You as an expert, what do you think? He was horrified. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. And it became apparent to me really quickly that we needed to set precedents, that we really needed to have a say in the law. And I, alongside with two other people, one, she was an organizer for the Debt Collective, and another one was a attorney kind of, at his own personal capacity, and not currently involved in any of this, but it was very, very sweet of him. We built a mock case where we listed every issue we saw from every single law, and we were like, all right, let's start shopping around. And we went to a couple lawyers, and they weren't seeing it. They're like, this doesn't quite fit. And I ran across a Vice article that was talking about this law firm that is considering suing Microsoft for Copilot GitHub, which is basically the same thing, where it's like, company takes makes machine learning models of the things that they don't own, but for coders. And I was like, oh, let's get a hold of them. And I sent an email, and I think it was less than 24 hours, that I think it was either you or Abraham Ram that emails me and says, let's talk. And in less than 2 to 3 days, I was in my first Zoom call, and Travis, you were there, and we were just sharing what we had found. And Travis yeah, let's keep talking. And this was literally October 27-ish, when those conversations first started.
Yeah, that sounds about right. We hadn't even filed our first case yet, but I wanted to do the image case next. I was already looking into it, but mostly busy with the Copilot case. And so it was perfect timing. I think Bram forwarded your email to me, and then I said, yes, please respond to her, set it up. And so shall I talk about the case? What's about? Or
I think yes, but I think I would also like to know why a class action lawsuit and what makes it suitable.
Sure. So I'll start with that. So
okay.
All of our cases are class actions, and this is mainly because it's not going to make the companies change what they're doing if it's just an individual action. I mean, even if we got $5 million in damages, it's nothing to Microsoft or Google or any of the others. I think OpenAI is worth $20, $30 billion now, or more, 60, yeah, and they're bringing in billions a year already. So class actions are what we use when all the claims are too small to make a difference, but together they will affect what the company does. Most of my cases before this have been antitrust cases where companies collude to keep the prices up, and maybe everyone only gets damaged by $50, but 10 million people, that adds up to something the company will pay attention to. So now IP class actions like this, like our Stability AI case has copyright claims, which are just based infringement a bunch of different ways. DMCA claims, which are about taking artists' names off of their art and then redistributing it. And right of publicity, which is about using the artist names to market the product. There's some other claims. Those are not common class actions. I think that may be part of the reason why we're one of the only firms doing this. But now that there's the ChatGPT lawsuit and the Llama one, there's some other firms that have jumped in, and those are probably going to be the bigger ones, I guess, just because of that.
Yeah. So I guess as someone who has worked in both IP and class action maybe separately, what parts of this suit, the combination is obviously like unorthodox, right? But what parts of the suit is like new to you even? And what parts are familiar to you in your experience in both of these domains?
Sure. Well, so the class stuff is very familiar. For many years, I did just class actions in federal court, very big ones where dozens and dozens of firms would all file the same case, and we'd have to work together at the court's direction. And so these are actually a lot smaller than that in that regard, which is nice. We get a lot more of, decision-making power and direct the case. And I've done IP litigation as well. It's really just the combination that's new for me, but now it's been over a year, so it's not so much new anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess after a year, where are we at with this Stability AI suit? What stage of the lawsuit are we at? What do you expect coming up, and maybe how long it's going to take?
Sure. So this is very standard in these cases. We filed our complaint. At some point, the defendants filed motions to dismiss. That's kind of just testing our complaint. The judge will issue a ruling any day now. It's been long enough that there could easily be a ruling. We got one pretty quickly in Copilot. And basically the judge points out the things that were missing from our complaint or that he doesn't think make sense. And then we fix those things and file a new complaint. And it's up to the judge how many times that can happen. At some point that stops. We have some claims already going forward in Copilot that aren't going to be dismissed. So we're able to do what's called discovery, which is where we get documents from the other side and we get to ask them questions and eventually take depositions where people have to testify under oath, hopefully, big shots that don't like to do that. So Stability is hopefully going to have at least one claim, make it through this round without us having to update anything in the complaint. If that happens, then discovery starts. And so that's really, that's when the expenses for the defendants start piling up and the chances of us finding something that's really bad for them appears. And so we don't know what we'll find, but the more chance that the defendants are going to lose, the more likely they are to try to settle the case, meaning in these cases, hopefully change what they're doing to some extent to not be so awful.
I want to interject really quick here because it's something that's always being asked. No, I'm not paying for a class action suit. I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah, all the class actions that we do are contingency, meaning we only get paid if we get money from the defendants, and we get paid out of that, and the rest goes to the class members.
Yeah, because I've seen and kind of nefarious online forums be like, she has so much money, and I'm just like, cool. I wish. Please, I need it.
Yeah, and we cover all the expenses too. It's all the firm. The firm takes the risk, and then they get money in the end if they're a good risk.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to bring it back to Stephen. So beyond suing or joining a class action, what are things as an individual that you can do? So you brought up copyright, right? So what specifically do you have to do, and what other similar actions can you take?
Well, if you want to register your copyright, the Copyright Office's website and their online system is definitely the way to go. There's a lot of info on there. They do make it clear. I have had the good luck to meet with people from the Copyright Office, and let me just tell you that they look at everything. So there is another human who looks at your submission. So if you're confused about something, there's comment boxes on the website where you can just say, I'm confused about this. Did I label this right? Like when I submitted mine, I was submitting something quite complicated. I was trying to copyright an entire long drawing course that has like over 80 videos in it and all that. So I just leveled with them in my application. Like, I think I'm doing this right. Am I copywriting individual videos? Am I copywriting an entire compilation? And yeah, someone goes through it and helps, watches everything. God help them. That was a lot of footage. So there's another person on the other side, and they can help you. And I think that's definitely what you want to focus on the copyright side. Outside of copyright, I think right now we are living through a very exciting time for collective action in this regard. This is a real grassroots thing. I mean, the whole culture right now is dealing a lot with ChatGPT and writing, and we are, in a big way, coming together with writers, musicians, voice actors, like all sorts of people. But on the art front, entertainment art in general, I mean, it feels so big to us. It's still kind of a niche thing, actually, in reality in the world. It's still a smaller thing. So we need each other. We need to sort of stay close together. This is a time for collective action. We've got to talk to each other. Talking to each other will naturally amount to also, and this is uncomfortable, but I think this is going to be important, it's going to mean talking with your coworkers, your bosses, things like that. I mean, it's uncomfortable to say, but it's going to have to be the reality, right? And I think right now that's some of the main stuff that we need to focus on. We've got these big things going on, like your class action, but the energy behind that, the thrust behind all of that, I think is always going to be the energy and interactions between people and individual artists. So I'm big on that.
That's cool. So, regarding things like filing for intellectual property, right? This is a question for either you, Steven, or Travis. Why do we need copyright? I think a lot of people who have made maybe fan art, or people who have kind of done their own thing, don't typically look at systems of enforcement as something that could represent or help individuals, right? So why do we need copyright? What does it give you, and what power can you hold after you hold copyright or any sort of IP?
I'm going to throw that to Travis.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, really, any creative job kind of requires copyright to exist, because otherwise, big companies aren't going to pay people to make things when they can just take what's already there, and they don't care if it's not very good or not. I mean, if they can get it for free, that's what they're going to do most of the time. And so and the work for hire is a separate thing, but even work for hire allows for jobs for artists and other creative individuals. But everyone owns a copyright in everything they create from the moment they create it. As soon as they put it in a tangible medium, like write it down or record it or put it on paper, anything like that. But a lot of the rights that make a big difference, like statutory damages and even the ability to sue, you have to register your copyright. So your registering doesn't make you own the copyright. It just gives you a bunch of extra rights. And trademark is the same way. You own a trademark as soon as you use your mark in commerce, and it can be your name, or if you have your own brand. Patent is different, and I don't know anything about it, so I won't talk about it. Right of publicity, you inherently own the rights in your image, your name, your voice. It depends on the state. And so the main benefit of these rights are they stop other people from stealing from you, and especially copyright. If you have a registration, the statutory damages are quite high, and depending on how much is stolen, could add up to millions of dollars pretty quickly. And that's the only language that companies understand, really, is money. And so, and even other people, it's scary to be sued. Being in a lawsuit is horrible as a party. And so that's it. That's what it gives you a stick that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Okay, thank you. And okay, so this question is for all three of you. You mentioned work for hire, right? So it's probably inevitable that you'll do work for hire in your careers. So in these situations, are artists, are the individuals who do it out of luck? Do you really have to rely on the company, or are there ways for artists to protect themselves?
Can I jump in on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
To start. So yeah, work for hires are a standard in our industry, unfortunately. And it needs to be very, very clear that this is very unique to the US. Something I've come to find out is that in Europe and in other countries, work for hires aren't that extensive. For those of you who might not know what work for hire is basically an agreement that you signed with a company that states these are certain rights that you normally would have now belong to ours. One of them including copyright. And so that gets pretty dicey in the era of generative AI, because it's totally a possibility, and it's something that even I hesitate to talk about it aloud, because it is a possibility to say, hey, listen, we own all the rights to, let's say, the work that I've done at Disney, or my colleagues have done at Disney. We worked at Disney for like ages now. And there's nothing that says that they can't make a model out of that work, which means technically that a company that owns all these rights can make basically digital replicas of its workers. And that's concerning very much, and it's one of the reasons why both the WGA and also SAG-AFTRA is fighting really hard. I know the unions are looking into it. I know TAG is really concerned about this. I know the directors, the Art Directors Guild is also concerned. So every union is concerned about this, because this is one of our, one of the points that we do need to address. In terms of how do we address it, there has to be a collective push in our industry to say, hey, these are certain rights that in this new era can actually really harm us. So to say, for example, the Concept Art Association, I know that this is one of their things that they're hoping to do, is perhaps push certain language to be out of these work for hires, or at least add extra language that said, yes, you own the rights, but you cannot, train models off of my work. You cannot take my data in perpetuity. So there's a lot of action to do in that realm for the US at the very least. So organization's going to be really key to that.
If I could just say something really quick. The language she's talking about, the Concept Art Association, does have a rider on their website published now. So if you go to the Concept Art Association's website, if you go, I believe it's under the Advocacy tab, if you are a freelancer, they do have a rider that you can add to your freelance work contract that says, do not use this work for AI training. It's well written. It's very encompassing. Obviously, in a freelance capacity, it's the client doesn't need to accept it, right? But it's something that you can try. I think as artists in general, we need to get more comfortable with negotiating our contracts. I mean, a lot of artists have probably never negotiated a contract, even if they've had a decades-long career. So, yeah, I think that's coming in the future.
Yeah, the main thing to know about work for hire is that you never owned it. If you sell your copyright to someone, you might have some rights left over, even though you sold it. But if you do a work for hire contract and then make the product, it's not yours. It automatically becomes the company's property or whoever. And so, like Carla and Stephen were saying, that you can. It's a contract. Unless you're an employee, there has to be a contract to establish a work for hire, and so you can ask to add whatever you want to that contract to protect yourself.
Right. Thank you. So, I guess with this legal action and new technology evolving day by day, how is the legal landscape catching up? So in terms of other cases, in terms of legislation, Yeah, so we have a couple of unanswered questions. These come from my paper that I published last month, yeah. So are there things that address these unanswered questions, or are there things that either reactively or proactively address the harms that have already come up?
I would say, copyright law is always kind of in this position where there's new technology coming out. Like streaming music, licensing, contracts for record companies didn't account for streaming music, and they had to figure it out under copyright law. They never, as far as I know, amended the Copyright Act to make any provisions about it. And there's a reasonable chance they won't amend it to do anything about AI. They'll just let the courts figure it out.
So real quick, how old is it?
How old is
the Copyright Act?
The current one, I think it was like 1976, but with the last time they did a big revision, they add things though. They added architecture. There's one thing I forgot to mention earlier about your copyright rights is there's a small claims type of process now at the Copyright Office. So if someone is infringing your rights, even if it doesn't seem like it's going to be worth it to do a whole lawsuit, you can do that, and it's much more cost effective.
Yeah, we'll put up a link to it later.
Yeah, and so, but the law is, the copyright is in the Constitution, so it exists, and that's where this whole authorship thing comes from. But so it's been around since before the country, and so it always is adapting and evolving, and the concepts in it aren't tied to like specific technologies or things like that. They're more esoteric than that. And so, ultimately fair use is going to be the biggest issue. The defendants didn't even challenge that they were infringing copyright in the ChatGPT and Llama cases. Presumably they're going to rely on fair use amongst other things. And fair use is like a black box. There's so many different cases on it, and they're not like cohesive, even though Supreme Court cases, you couldn't really say for sure whether something's fair use or not until the Supreme Court says it's fair use or not.
Okay, thank you. So real quick, so since you work on other kind of class action IP suits, do you mind kind of mentioning, what commonalities there are between the other cases, like, Copilot or the ones from the authors? And even cases beyond that, like, we know that Getty Images is suing Stability. What are the similarities between their, single action case versus
individual action?
Yeah.
Well, so Stability kind of, Getty kind of copied our causes of action for the most part. They did add a trademark portion, which it's kind of especially difficult to do on a class basis, but for them, they had their watermark on the images, and it was being spit out, mangled, or on really, disturbing images. So there's, that is their trademark. So Getty is very similar to our case, except they're only going after Stability AI. They also have there's nuance to their case because they have their own AI generator, as far as I know, or they're working on one, and they license their, trove of images to people to use to train AI on. So it's even more like, we literally would have sold this to you if you would have asked, but instead you stole it. Not like artists who are mostly would rather they just didn't use their images at all. So between our cases, Copilot is the most different because as far as we know, it was only trained on open source code. So that case is more about how they ignore the licenses. They don't follow them. They don't tell you that the code is licensed. And then, Stability with images, it's different. Just inherently, images are different. How you evaluate them in copyright, how you show infringement, how similar they are. It's a lot easier with words to just show how many words are the same and whatever. And the ChatGPT and Llama cases are inherently kind of similar to Copilot because they're all large language models. But the ChatGPT and Llama were not trained on open source images. Maybe some, but not many.
All right, thank you. Question for Stephen, right? Outside of litigation, what are ways that you can influence legislation, right? The creation of laws or the creation of regulation?
Yeah, I did see you wanted to say something. I want to give you a chance.
I just
will
wanted
come back
to
that.
kind of update because there has been some legislative movement, not much, but they're having a lot of conversations in DC about this. Some of them seem really, really helpful, like the FTC one. Not just because I was a part of it, hey. But no, it's regulatory agencies are doing quite good at trying to figure out what this is. They're calling the right experts. I wouldn't say the same about the Senate, because right now the one who's making a lot of noise is Chuck Schumer's office. They have a bipartisan AI Insight Forum. They're going to be doing a series of 9 sessions, and we're right now at the second one, but literally it's just been tech CEOs. I think they only had one artist, and that was a representative of the WGA, the Writers Guild Association. So that one's been very disappointing to see, because that's kind of signaling that they're more interested in the cash more than anything.
Well, there's more meetings, so hopefully,
there's more meetings.
We could change something.
Hopefully we can change something. But I think it's definitely a hot topic in DC. That's something that they're all rushing to figure out how to best tackle it. And there's a lot of great organizations. Concept Artists, one is doing really great work. They opened up their fundraising again to try and do a year 2, so if you can, please donate. There's another one called the Human Artistry Campaign. That's a coalition of about 140 different art groups, and everybody's in there. SAG-AFTRA, WGA, the Recording Industry, Concept Art Association, everyone and anybody, the Authors Guild, they're all there. And so they're mounting a campaign as well, because right now there's a lot of coalitions getting started to try and advocate for different sides. In terms of laws, there's nothing really yet. There's I know that there's a right of publicity something act that they're trying to enact, but the exemptions on that particular act are very concerning. They're giving exemptions to you can use someone's likeness for free if they've been dead for 70 years. You can use it for documentaries. You can use it for sports. So there's a lot of really concerning exemptions to that I know the SAG is really pissed off about. But when it comes to legislation, it is so insanely important to know that you have a lot of power in that calling, being obnoxious to your, to your representatives and this is important. This is one of my main issues as a voter. That I didn't believe how effective that was, but it is. It is immensely effective. So yeah.
Yeah, no, ditto all of that. I just want to put a fine point on what Carla ended there. Yeah, you can actually talk to your representatives. You hear it all the time. It's talk to your representatives, write them. They have forms on their websites that you can fill out, and they will get on the phone with you. They'll get on a Zoom call with you. Your senator could get on a Zoom call with you. It's their job. They actually do have to do that. So take it seriously when people say reach out. Send those emails, when they put out requests for comments and things like that, respond to those, and yeah, fill out those forms, and they will take meetings with you, and they will hear you out. I mean, I was on the FTC Generative AI Roundtable just recently, along with Carla, and I never would have predicted I could be in that situation, not a year ago. I would have said that's impossible. That's not how stuff like that actually works. So I can tell you firsthand, stuff does actually work like that sometimes. If it's something that is important, it can happen and people will hear you out. And for example, on that FTC call, I was amazed to hear how much the FTC was on our side. I mean, they came out like bleeding heart artists in that the chair people and the people on the board for the FTC were really, really on artist side on that call. So yeah, there's a lot of hope there.
Yeah, the FTC call was really awesome.
That was great.
And mostly because we were no.
Everybody on it was
no,
great.
everybody. It was a representative of every artist coalition. Every art representative is amazing. I want to add on just a little bit more from what Steven said, but for earlier, the idea that we really are, a true community in this, and we are our best representatives. We don't have the same, well, it depends on the industry. For example, if you're in animation, you should be a part of TAG, that animation guild, the union. Concept artists are split between 2 different unions, so our best interests aren't always best represented. But we, artists in general, we're mostly freelancers, we're mostly contractors. We don't have the same luxuries as like big groups like the lawyers from music or the union representatives from other. So we really are our best representatives. So take it from me, the only reason I don't despair, and I'm actually pretty optimistic about the future, is because of the action I see people taking. So whenever you feel desperate, whenever you feel down, see if you can take action that's, in a healthy way. Transition and being like, oh, I'm going to contact my senator. I'm going to contact my, representative, my, legislator. Local government is really important in this, specifically if you're in California. That's going to be a huge fight coming into this. And to just be like, hey, what orgs can I donate to? What orgs, keep yourself informed. Talk to media. It's actually really easy to talk to media. You just send them a note and said, hey, I think you should follow this story. And hey, I think you should, be helpful, be active if you can. And yeah.
I just want to clarify one thing. So you can reach out to lawmakers, but regulatory agencies like the FTC
Yes.
are also, So you could reach out to them, especially if you're experts. They love to hear from you. The other thing is, regarding state laws, if you live in California or Washington, most tech companies are based there, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can influence your state lawmakers, you can have a lot of influence over them.
Actually, really quick, the Copyright Office itself is looking for commentary on AI, generative, on arts, generative AI, copyright, and so on. They extended the commentary, and it ends this Monday, the 30th. So if you're just coming out of here and you're just fired up, go on their website for a second while you're waiting for coffee for your lunch or something like that, and just write them, tell them, look, this is my livelihood, this is existential. This kind of thing should not be rewarded, or however you feel about it, let them know. They're specifically asking for commentary, and it really, really helps.
Yeah, and when you do the commentary, usually they have they break it down. They ask you a series of questions, what do you think about this part? What do you think about this part? So they take you through it. It's not like you have to write some long, big thing, but they read that stuff. That's the weird thing about government agencies. They do actually then sit and read it all. Someone actually does look at it, which is surprising.
Yeah,
or at least it was to me.
Yeah, the regulatory agencies rule, actually. Yeah. They're very, very awesome. It's and in the Senate, and Congress, the staffers are the badass ones. I don't know so much about the actual big guns, but it's actually it's surprising in a way of how well it does function.
Yeah. I was surprised.
I mean, right? I was like, this is all broken, and you're like, oh, this works really well.
It kind of works.
Oh,
it actually kind of works.
Okay, all right, cool. I couldn't be an angry artist I hate the government. It's like, damn it. Damn it. Yeah, right?
Okay, so final question. I'm going to start with Steven, but, what are your thoughts on the way forward, right? Are you optimistic? Are you tired? Are you, how do you feel? How do you feel, in the coming months, in the coming years, decades even? And then you guys can jump in.
I'm tired and optimistic for sure. I won't lie and say I'm not tired. I find a lot of the online stuff, the arguments, the vitriol, the sort of divisions that happen, all of that stuff exhausts me spiritually. I don't know how else to put it. I find it completely antithetical to, our artistry is supposed to be about connecting from one person to another. So all of that stuff has left me very tired. But on balance, I do feel optimistic. Like Carla said before, a lot of it is seeing that things do happen, knowing that anything was being done, and then being lucky enough to be involved with some of those things obviously just makes me feel much more optimistic. Also, just on things I've learned and what I've heard and the meetings that I've been in and the conversations that I've been able to have, there is a path forward here. People, it is realistic. It actually is realistic. The tone on the online conversation, when people are bickering with each other on Twitter and Reddit and stuff like that, is always that the other side, let's say the AI side, is like, we know we're already run, we already won. It's out of the bag, there's no going back, nothing can change. I promise you they're completely wrong. So anyone who is in a real position to do anything about this, someone who doesn't have an anonymous handle on a website somewhere, everyone who can really do something says, oh no, there's something we could do about that. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. Oh yeah, they probably can't be doing that. Like there is a real path forward here. And I think that everybody should feel optimistic. As for like the very, very long term, I mean, things are going to get weird. That's what I think. I think things are going to get very, very strange. There's a lot of weird developments going on out in the world. We have tools like Glaze to be able to defend ourselves now. If you haven't heard about Glaze, it's an adversarial defense tool that will allow you to run a process on your images. They'll make it more difficult for an AI system to identify your particular style. There are broader and interesting things coming out, like other tools, like dataset poisoning tools.
Yeah, like Nightshade.
Yeah,
coming from the same group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just FYI, they have a panel 10 a.m. tomorrow. So
Yep.
the professor behind it and Carla will be there.
Definitely come
amongst
to that.
others.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Steven, you're on that panel too, right?
Yes, I am.
Nice.
Yeah. So, so things like
Travis.
Nightshade and Glaze to me are the beginnings of this is all going to get very strange. You know, we can't really predict what's going to happen, and I'd say that there's possibilities for things to occur that just a few months ago many of us would have said were probably impossible, and artists probably really do have a very robust and real chance of defending themselves in this situation. So yeah, I feel optimistic for sure.
Maybe I go next and Travis, yeah. So I feel almost 90%, 95% the same as you, so I could just say, oh, what he said and move it all forward. But yeah, I think like being a part of it, which by the way, I consider it my part-time job because my full-time is still my work, my craft. I have to remind myself why I love what I do, why I fight so hard for it. And it's, art is brilliant, art is healing, art is everything for me. And it's something that I try very hard not to forget, because it's easy to get so involved and so encompassed in this that you lose yourself. It is. But I'm glad, but that's been one of the things where I'm like, all right, this is going to be like something that I focus on, but I'm not going to let myself lose. And I think stopping sometimes and really enjoying what you do is going to be important. Because there's one thing that's for certain. I am extremely hopeful, but this is going to take time. All of it is going to take time. There will be moments that it'll feel like everything's happening in like a week or a month. It'll go really fast. But overall, like, developments take time, court cases take time, legislation takes time, and we got to be good advocates for our own rights. But at the same time, we really need to nurture ourselves, so that's really important. But overall, I'm typically, my philosophy in life is to be a short-term, pessimist, long-term optimist. Because I always expect things to go kind of fucked up, get kind of messy. Something will go wrong in the short term. But in the long term, I'm always very, very hopeful and very optimistic. And seeing all the developments that are occurring and seeing all the meetings that I've also been a part of, all the people that are reaching out, all the connections that are being made, all the organizing that is happening, people who normally don't stand up for themselves standing up, like that gives me a lot of hope, and I'm seeing things happen. So, and there's so much more to come. So I think there's a lot of exciting things happening, and we are basically writing history, all of us together. So we just have to assure that it's a history that considers us and allows us to continue enjoying this.
Great, thank you. Travis?
Yeah, I have a similar philosophy to Carla, like expect the worst, hope for the best. Especially in lawsuits, you really can never guess what's going to happen. There's so many things that judges have a ton of discretion on. I would say that defendants are taking these cases seriously. They've hired some of the best lawyers in the country as far as IP goes. So I do have some hope that the lawsuits might help change things, but I don't think that'll be the only thing. Like Carla was saying, like I think there's so much money behind these companies to get laws changed and laws that allow them to do whatever they want. Like, and I think it is that lots of people is the only way to challenge that, other than lots of money on the other side, which isn't going to happen. I mean, not to the scale that these companies can put forward. So I'm hopeful, but I've seen things go the other way. In like Spotify, the music artists are still hurting from that situation. So yeah, hopeful but measured.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just give my own message as well. So coming from the STEM side, right? Look, we got cigarettes regulated, right? We got Microsoft broken up. Some of these things, even if there's a technology-based power shift, you don't have to let it be entrenched into society. I think the other thing is, a lot of people will think, oh, well, AI, works just like humans do. They don't. At the end of the day, what AI is afforded is what humans afford it to do, right? All technology is, an exertion of power, and at the end of the day, you need to exert your power back towards it. You need to fight back towards the technologies that do not benefit you. So nothing is written in stone. Don't let people from my field make you think you're powerless, right? They just happen to be the people who are afforded power. They are not power. So, yeah, with that, we're going to open things up to Q&A. We have about 13 minutes.
Hi there. Okay, let's just assume that we get our way and artists get full authorship and whatnot and all copyright. How do you plan on enforcing that? Because there are several things that work in your work against your favor. Because once an image is actually inside one of these stable diffusion models, you can't really take it out when they're like tensors. And also, a lot of these images are put into the model with the fingerprint sanded off. If it's a Craig Mullins painting, it would be just called digital painting. So there's the authorship is actually not within the file itself. So how do you plan on enforcing copyright?
So on the technology side, right? I just want to address that real quick. You can ban software. There's this thing called algorithmic disgorgement, which is a government or some agency comes by and say, delete this, destroy your technology, don't do this ever again. Governments have this power. It has happened before. And so even if there's a rogue copy going around, no company can benefit from it. That's a major step there, right? And anything that comes out of this banned product cannot be marketed. So even if the model is trained, we can destroy it. We have the power. So yeah.
Yeah, the lawsuits could accomplish that. It's called injunctive relief, when the court orders something to happen instead of money changing hands. And if, say, a movie turns out to be copyright infringement, the movie studio that challenged it could have all the copies destroyed by a bulldozer if they want to.
I was just wondering how this law can be effective internationally as well, because I know, especially in China, there's lots of illustrators getting replaced by AI, and I was wondering how it's gonna affect worldwide, and if there's a way to stop it in the other countries as well.
Yeah, so copyright law is pretty universal. Not every aspect of it. Most countries don't even don't have a registration requirement. It's a part of the Berne Convention. We have sidestep, and so it's fairly similar. It depends on if the country has passed exceptions. Certain countries have passed certain exceptions to certain AI practices, but otherwise, not only can you enforce copyright in other countries, if you have a copyright in the United States, say, you can then apply for a copyright in other countries based on that. And it's kind of like automatic. Like if you own it somewhere else, then you can get it in most other countries under the Berne Convention. It's like 200 something countries.
Yeah, just FYI, Berne Convention is like one of the, I think, prerequisites to join the UN. So yeah, damn near every country has it.
I think also important to note too, there's a lot of countries and a lot of artists within those countries that are also preparing themselves to file lawsuits. Like, I can't talk about where, but I do know that that's something like that is happening, that almost in every country, artists are getting together to not, sue, but also to organize. For example, in the EU, we have IGER, which is the, almost the exact counterpart to the Concept Art Association here in the US. I know that, there's a coalition of Japanese artists that are also getting together to fight this. There's a growing consensus among South Korean artists that they're also trying to fight this. I don't know many, I know, but even China itself, last I read, I remember that China was proposing to pass a strengthening of copyright for machine learning, actually. I think it was like something in like Article 7 or something. I'll need to find it. Can we put that resource somewhere?
I'll have to look it up, but
but they are passing. They are looking into it, and I think, and this is just me. I think that one of the things that's slowly dawning on governments is that they just can't let these industries just be, decimated by the potential of, this technology. And that's because these industries do generate a lot of money. It's important to have people in your society employed, and the levels of unemployment that could happen. If the worst case comes to be, which, by the way, nothing is written in stone, that's not a set future. But it's something that I think worldwide artists are banding together. They're fighting this. They're making sure that their rights are respected.
For the record, like, media entertainment is like 4% of the American GDP. That's pretty huge. Yeah. So don't completely count yourselves out.
Hi. First of all, thank you for doing all of this. Like, you're our heroes. So my question is this: I'm working as an artist for, let's say, gaming company, and we're literally being forced to use AI at work. What can we do?
Okay. You wanna get started on that?
Yeah, I mean, Carla knows more from an insider perspective on this, but I mean, at the least you might be able to bring your employer's attention to the fact that the output of AI, generative AI, might not be copyrightable. It might be infringing, so they might be opening themselves up. Maybe they should look at the terms of the copyright software that they're using to see if they're on the hook if there's a lawsuit.
Yeah. I think that's I've come to notice that the companies who are just rushing in to use it is because they're normally not that big, or if they are, they're either ignoring their legal department, or their legal department hasn't looked into it yet. But for example, it would be of benefit to say, look, like, as Travis just mentioned, like, you cannot copyright generative AI imagery. You just cannot. And, they'll say, well, you can paint over it, but that's not yet tested. And when you submit a copyright, you have to detail how you made it. And so far, their rulings have been, you can copyright the things you make. So the extra brush strokes you made, cool. But the image base as a whole, you can't copyright that. So for a commercial entity, that means that their product is basically useless. You can't, if like, let's say the game becomes a big hit, I can make merchandise of that. I can sell specific sections of the game, and there's nothing that the company can do about it because there is no copyright. Not just this, but I would say, and Travis, correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm overstepping, my art is not lawyer bound. There's one thing that a lot of these companies miss. They don't realize that these models do plagiarize at a percentage. I think there were studies upon it, like, 1.8% or so. The University of New York did.
Yeah, they do plagiarize a certain degree.
Yeah.
There will be stuff that are like straight up lifted
Yeah.
Visually. Yeah.
Yeah, and so to be like, look, not only can we not commercially copyright this, but there's, at least in Stable Diffusion, there's 5.8 billion images and text data pairs that are trained upon that. At 1.8, that's huge numbers of potential plagiarism right there. So that puts your company and your job as well at risk to say, oh, we released this, there's 5.8 billion images, how do you know you're not plagiarizing? Like, that could completely demolish a company if they're found to be, you know, within copyright infringement. So I think we've had a lot of artists also with the same issue. And I feel like the ones who were most successful in letting their jobs not, you know, jump in on this is being like, here's all the commercial reasons why this is a really bad idea. They don't take too kindly to, they've exploited my peers, they stole from us. Like, at the end of the day, certain companies, peoples are just like, money. We'll talk to them about money. Talk to them about why this isn't copyrighted and why this could put your company at risk. I think that's my best thing. And maybe perhaps start looking for other places to work.
Just to put a fine point on it, we've seen that method work.
Yes.
We can't give details and all that,
Yes.
but it works.
Yeah,
it works.
Many.
So
No, I have friends who have done that too.
Yeah, many
they've put you in an
companies.
uncomfortable situation, so our heart goes out to you. Yeah.
Okay. 2 minutes left, so 1 or 2 more questions.
This is going to be real quick, so then you can ask your question. Actually, I was just going to tack something on there. I have a personal example, and I'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow during my presentation for anyone who's curious. But I've also found that a lot of these companies think that it's better at certain things than it is. Mm-hmm. And I actually had an experience with that recently. My catchphrase on it is that I saved John Favreau $200,000 in 2 hours. Because basically they wanted to try to use the automated system. They wanted to use machine learning on a problem it was not really very well suited to. And it was going to take a week and blow their entire budget, and I solved it in 2 hours.
Nice.
Your brains are better than you think they are.
Yeah. Woo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Do you see any future way that, if it's ethically made, because right now it's not at all, AI could be used as a tool to help artists, or do we think that it's just going to be destructive towards artists and a money-making tool for other companies?
Can I answer that real quick? Once we get to that stage, it really just becomes about labor protections. And it really becomes about now shifting that to legislative action, to union action, to making sure that, you know, you are protected. 'Cause there's a lot of money to be made in that technology. I'm assuming that once they realize, oh shit, we just can't take everything on the internet and it's ours, like, you know, that point we'll get here, and we'll get to a place where it's like, oh, they've tried to do this better now. But we still need, you know, certain levels of protections. Like, I think in a future like that, we'll be much better off together as artists, because then maybe perhaps that could be used as a tool, or maybe perhaps that, you know, we're just better off. We have a better future if that comes to pass. But we'll still need some form of protections and making sure that, hey, listen, this can't take over a whole production. We're going to have certain percentages. Let's protect this. You know, we don't know what that looks like just yet. We just know that we need it.
Yeah, so we're at 1:30, so we're gonna wrap this up. I think my point of view from as a computer scientist is that I think our culture on the AI side is broken, right? So I think we've caused a lot of harm as a field, not myself. As a field, we've caused a lot of harm, right? So there has to be a reckoning on our side. We need to tear, this culture of exploitation down first. Yeah. There are leaders in my field who feel empowered at this moment because of the money that's been thrown at them, that they can get away with this, right? So we need to make sure that they don't get away with it. Then we build a new AI culture. Then we'll talk about ethical AI. Like, we're not even there yet within our field. Yeah. So. So that's it. We'll be around. Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody. Thank you for being here.